Brief disclaimer before we begin. This game is going to contain spoilers. If you have not seen the last episode of Game of Thrones, do not watch this. That is your only warning. Here we go. It is cold. No. Nay. It is not cold. It is freezing. Chilling to the bone. And with each step, well, that is the closest you come to feeling alive. As the frost permeates your body, as the chill seeps into your bones, into your flesh and your muscles, and the sluggish forward advance of this long march covers you from head to toe, you remember seeing them, the dead. You remember hearing the dying, the chatter snap break of bones, of frozen teeth clacking against themselves, the screams of dying men, horses, and animals, that monstrosity flying overhead. A dragon. Never seen one before. Rogar, as you walk alongside this beleaguered caravan of civilians, of commoners, and of few fighting men and women, what are you thinking?
Usually in a march so dire as this would leave the old and infirm and slow to their fate, but to do that is just to add to the size of the enemy. So Rogar's railing against his instinct to spur his destrier on and take the strongest, those who can survive south to Winterfell. And turns to look down like the grim column, like the snow-dusted folk, some like previous allies, some previous enemies. He looks through his hoar-frosted breath and sees someone like languishing, lagging at the side, like roughly like spur his destrier about a half circle and gouge through the snow towards the figure and reach down a hand to try and like grab them back up to standing.
The woman that you reach down to help kind of breathes heavily, kneeling in the snow, clutching desperately to a bundle held in her arms, a child. She would look up at you, and she doesn't even have the energy to cry, to ask for help, to say thank you, to do anything really. And she would quietly take your hand, letting you pull her to her feet, and stumble forward a few more steps before gritting her teeth, looking down at her child, and continuing walking, languishing against this cold. Passing alongside you, Rogar, as you help this poor woman, comes Lund. You see the beleaguered, the afflicted, the hopeless surrounding you, Lund Umber, and what do you think about this whole situation?
Lund is really disgusted at those that are falling behind, and that we have to really help them along, though he realizes it's in his own interest to keep doing so, because as was said before, anybody left behind just becomes that much greater number of the enemy. So begrudgingly, he's prodding these weaklings along in hopes as having as many able hands holding a sword as possible at Winterfell.
As you kind of look at this beleaguered column, this sad group of refugees, of wanderers, of dead and dying men and women, you remember how it was when the news first came. You're standing on the wall, speaking idly, when a man materialized out of the falling snow, out of the blizzard, out of the hoarfrost, it seemed, and stumbled up to the gate, falling from the saddle into the snow. The guards pulled him in, carried him into the hall, the main hall, where the heat was, where the food was, or what food you did have, and sat him down, calling for the maester to come and take care of him, to deal with him, this black-haired, scraggly man in Watch regalia. You remember watching with interest, Daisy, as the man whispered 4 words. The wall has fallen. How did you react?
Disbelief at first, as would be for anyone in the Seven Kingdoms. The wall stood for 1,000 years, for thousands of years. And running through her mind were, what could that possibly mean? How could anything destroy the wall or surpass the wall? And then flashing back through her mind as she's trudging through the snow with the column, she flashes back to this moment, and then she flashes back to when she saw the white dragon, the ice dragon, flying overhead. And just this feeling of dread overwhelms her once more, and she's not easily terrified. And she just has this burning desire to try how to end this dragon. How are we gonna defeat this enemy? You know, for now we're getting south, but it's just racing through her mind what the next steps are, how the North will take a stand, how the Seven Kingdoms will take their stand.
And as the dragon's deafening screech shook the foundation of your very soul, as the cold seeped into the room through the open door, as the shouts from the wall rose, as the horde approached, what were you doing, Karina?
Karina was staying warm, as anyone does. You find a fire, you sit near it, you don't move if you don't have to. And then it happened. And the screams and the disbelief. And now they've left Last Hearth and they're going south, but what's behind them? What will be left of home? She can't imagine.
That chatter snap of hoar-frosted bones, of frozen bodies chasing you through the snow, has haunted you ever since you fled Last Hearth. The keep fell quickly. Or how do you defeat an enemy that replenishes its ranks with your own dead? How do you outrun an enemy that never tires? And as you've marched, seemingly ceaselessly, small groups, 1, 2 at a time, have fallen away, leaving you with the company that you find yourselves in now. Perhaps 200 souls, maybe 30, 40 of which are fighting men and women trained in the sword. And yet you continue to march, exhausted. Everybody take a point of exhaustion. You see at the head of this column, Lord Dorian Umber, the uncle of Ned Umber, the new Lord of House Umber. leading the column, old and weary as he is doing his best, but you can see the exhaustion weighing on him. You see a small group of men approach him, several of the commanders and other soldiers who he trusts. And they begin to speak, and the column comes to a shuddering stop. There's no complaints. There are people who are just happy for the brief respite. Dorian would turn, waving for you four, being able-bodied fighters that you are, to approach.
Uncle, why have we stopped?
He would look at you with sagging, tired eyes. You see that the march has taken a toll on everybody. His frame is thinner than it was. His hair even seems grayer in a strange way. We have to stop. We have to camp. We haven't slept in days. They can't keep going. And he would look at you as you approached everyone else. At least that's what my captains tell me. What are your thoughts? Do we continue and keep losing men and women by twos and threes? Or stop briefly, take a rest?
Is the storm of the Night King closing behind us in any visible way, or are we far enough ahead that it's not an imminent threat?
You wouldn't say it is imminent, like within the hours it'll strike, basically. You would say that you are aware of the closeness of those behind you, of the things that are following you, the whites. You really couldn't say, because they don't seem to travel at any quick speed or anything. They seem to just be like a steadily progressive plague. I mean, it might be safe to stop for a few hours and just catch your breath, a couple of Z's, but you don't. It's really tough to say.
Lund would look back towards the direction of what used to be the last hearth and remark to his cousin, Karina, every moment we stop is a moment they get closer. We have to keep moving.
But look how tired they are. How can they keep going?
They'll go because they have to. They'll no longer be tired if they join the ranks of the dead. Every moment spent on this side of Winterfell is a death sentence.
Sir Rogar, what do you say?
Oh, my lady, it is not for me to speak. And he'll look to Dorian. And it's obvious from his intonation and his facial expression that maybe his position is too grim to to speak of, and it would be like in counter to what Dorian had suggested, which he won't do.
Dorian would kind of just begin to rub at his temple, his eyes closed, breathing heavily, leaning heavily on his walking stick. He would eye the four of you and the other assembled captains. Please speak freely, all of you. He kind of just shakes his head. I don't know what to do. If we don't rest, eventually there will be no one left among our ranks, and our situation will be just as grim, if not more grim, than it is now. But if we do stop, then those, and his lips kind of turn up in a sneer of disgust, things will close the distance on us. They'll be breathing down the back of our necks, biting at our heels. And his teeth would kind of grind in his mouth as he closes his lips, this angry expression crossing his face. Damn it all. And he'd kind of just turn around and like start pacing, for lack of a better term. But mostly it's just kind of like turning and rotating side to side as he's too tired to walk.
Lund would just spit on the ground and kind of toss his bow up a little bit and catch it in the air angrily as he would walk off towards the perimeter of the columns of people and try to keep as close a watch out on anything that might possibly come out of the woods at us.
Daisy lets out a big sigh, also rubs her temple. We can either add to the army of the dead a handful at a time, or we can add to the army of the dead scores at a time if we rest too long. Perhaps a brief respite, an hour for the weak to rest, and those with strength to maybe build some extra sledges to help us keep moving along. We cannot linger more than an hour, if that. And she looks to Rogar to see if he agrees, sort of giving him that opportunity.
I'll see it done, and he'll bow and like pull his coat about himself and bark out for some nearby men to begin hacking at trees and haul up some sledges until like commence with the work himself. Get pickets put up and trenches dug if there's any hills about where we set up our tents, and set those who are like not too weak to go and cut for firewood, so that we can like rest and cook and make best use of the time.
And Daisy pulls out her hand axe or hatchet and springs to action herself. She's right there with everyone making this happen.
So we've got 2 people going to chop wood and to make sledges. What are the other 2 doing?
Keeping watch, kind of slowly making the perimeter around the group. Am I the only woodsman in the group? Would there be others that would have served in the wars as scouting units?
I'd say maybe you have a couple of other huntsmen, people who know these forests, who have hunted them and have survived in them, who might be able to grant you aid if you were to ask for it.
Okay, yeah, I've spent time seeking them out and not so much asked for it, but more of commanded them to act in this way again, at least for now, until we hit the safety of Winterfell.
Yeah, so you send out like 2 or 3 scouts to 1 rear guard and 2 advance guards, maybe scout your way to check and watch for the enemy, to gauge their approach and perhaps see the distance that you have between you and them.
Okay. Yeah, it's if we can all kind of just keep watch on the outside, that'll be what I'm doing for the time being.
Rena is walking in the midst of the group, telling people sit and rest, but only for a short while. Gather your breath while you can. Stay close.
These people bunch together as frightened people do, gathering together for heat, for comfort, for what small vestige of civilization they have left, together with this horror chasing them through the snow. And you make camp for a short time, cooking what morsels of food you have and preparing sledges and other things that might aid you to help the wounded or the weak to move through the snow that just continues to pile up seemingly endlessly. A wave of white sweeping across the land, filling the north to the brim. You would see Dorian moving among the men and women, speaking briefly with each of them, trying to raise morale how he can. But you see that he is at an all-time low too, at the breaking point, you would say, an icy mirror about to fracture. Lund, in your scouting, I would like you to make me a survival or perception check.
All right. Well, they both work out to be the same. So. It's 20. That's a good roll in the first one.
A nat 20?
Yes, sir.
Nice. Okay, perfect. What would you say it is that informs you that the horde that is following you strangely is smaller than the horde that initially attacked? Almost as if it's been split in half in a way, you'd say.
I would remember when they broke through the wall. The one that I've heard called the Night's King led the way with a storm of snow and wind obscuring his army. This one doesn't have that. I can hear them moving through the forests. I can hear their approach, but the storm doesn't follow them. So this has to be a contingent away from their leader.
Yeah, as you listen to this approach, you gauge that maybe at the pace that they're moving, they'll get to your camp in maybe about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And as you're kind of listening and you see the occasional startled grouse or quail taking flight into the sky, you would hear a piercing shriek, a scream of a woman somewhere between you and the horde.
It's quite unfortunate that Lund has to be the one to hear the scream, because she'll fall to whatever fate she has in front of her at the time, because there's no way Lund would even remotely risk himself for, especially a woman he doesn't know. But I would use this to understand how close that they actually are, and would rush towards more of the huntsmen and try to alert more and more people and mount some kind of a defense.
Yeah, you're able to find the other huntsmen who would have heard the same thing. They would look towards the sound, the shrieks, the screams. As in this wilderness, the yells carry a great distance. They are screams for help, which, as you turn and leave, your fellow huntsman coming with you, one foolishly considering going, but is easily talked out of it. The screams eventually come to a close. They end, and silence reigns once more, except for the pad of footsteps that you can hear rising in a staccato crunch, passing through the woods towards you. You quickly make your way back to camp. You know you have about an hour and a half before they arrive, maybe 2, if you're lucky.
I would quickly try to find the others to alert them of the approaching danger.
Dorian would be kind of.
Taylor, were you going to say something?
Oh, I was going to say that Karina might be looking for you. She hadn't gone scouting. She was keeping close, watching the people, and she might see you returning.
Yeah, I would recognize your face through the crowd and quickly approach you and grab your arm to kind of get you close so as not to let anybody else hear. I don't want to panic the sheep, as it were, and tell you harshly that we need to find the others. We need to mount in defense. They're coming. We have just a few moments. Go. And I would rush off again to gather as many archers as I could possibly find.
Karina would tell her uncle as quickly as she could and then be rousing people to their feet. Up. Enough rest. We have to go now.
Yeah, Dorian would kind of, after you tell him this, his expression would darken even further, as he is surprised that they are traveling as fast as they have been. He would immediately call for you two, Rogar and Daisy.
Yes, my lord.
My lord.
Muster the men. Make sure that the people gather their things quickly and start moving. I'm going to need you and the other able-bodied men to guard the rear. Make sure that if they come close enough, I don't know, do what you can. You're resourceful. I hope that we can outpace them. I truly do.
Yes, my lord. Do we have any lantern oil?
We might have something. Check the wagons. I give you free requisition of what you might need there.
My lord. And she nods and races off to check what's in the stock. Commands Rogar to start assembling folks for the rear guard, basically.
He'll nod but remain in the tent with Dorian till he's alone with him, as if he wishes to speak privately.
Be open, sir. I would hear your words.
Lord, forgive me, but we should butcher the slow and old and infirm, and burn them in this camp and deny them to the enemy, and move at haste to Winterfell.
You would see Lord Umber, kind of his head would bow, and he just slowly, just like as if he can't even fully accept the situation that he finds himself in. And he would look up at you. Thank you for your honesty, Sir Rogar. But I will not do that yet. I will not. And he looks out at the milling people who are quickly extinguishing fires and gathering up supplies and taking half-cooked meat and whatever other food they had left over and just eating it, raw, bloody juices dripping down their face, but looks of pure satisfaction and joy covering their faces. Not yet. Not while there is still an inkling of hope, sir.
As you command, Lord, but know that if we are to be the rear guard, the best soldiers, and we fall to the enemy, you will have to contend with us.
And he would look at you and say, if it comes to fighting, you are not to engage in full combat. You are our swiftest and healthiest of men. And he'd walk forward and stand next to you, so only you can hear his next words. If you appear to be on the verge of being overwhelmed, you are to take the men and leave, traveling as quickly as you can to Winterfell, leaving us if you must.
By the best scout we have, Lord, with respect, we are already overwhelmed.
He would kind of turn away. Obviously, these are hard words to hear. Lord Umber, you know that he's always been a benevolent leader, a benevolent man, a good man. And being presented with such an option is not... It's not the option he wants to know about, but you know that sometimes it's the only option.
Sometimes, Lord, there is no right choice, just one choice less grievous than the other.
And he would look at you. I will consider your words. But for
I'll
now,
do as you speak and join Daisy, my
he would
lord,
nod.
and he'll bow low at that and retreat from the tent.
He would say thank you as you left. The camp is chaos. People are gathering items as quickly as they can. You see pots and pans or whatever valuables or sundry items that they carried with them are just left behind in the snow. You know that they are in a state of near hysteria, and it could ultimately, it'll give them energy for now, but you know the ultimate crash could lead to their deaths. Lord Umber doesn't seem to know what to say to calm them. He's trying, but nothing's happening. No one's listening.
Can I do an intimidation check or attempt an intimidation check against those people to do as ordered?
For sure, yeah.
13.
So what do you attempt?
I'll say while they're squabbling, the others are riding hard on the glass spiders coming for them to bring them up as whites to eat their kin. they want to stay and squabble and hasten that, by all means do so. If not, if that will not compel them, then I'll offer to brutalize them for the Lord.
You see a semblance of calm fall over them. They are not quite free from the grasp of hysteria, but they are at least listening now. And they would kind of fall into like a hurried, shuffling, disordered rank and file as they all hurry off in the direction that Lord Umber has declared.
Any of you whelps who still have fight in you, come to the rear van with us. You'll see fighting there, sure enough. And they'll like spur the Destria back to go back to the rear.
Yeah, you would get obviously the men who've been designated as warriors would follow. We're gonna hurry and go over to Daisy as you dig through the wagon. Go ahead and give me a. Let's do like a. Let me see, like searching. I guess let's go with like an investigation to dig through the piles of just unorganized stuff.
Yeah. 14.
So roll me a d4 2 times.
1 and 3.
Okay, so you're gonna find a small cask of lantern oil, maybe like 3 or 4 pints worth. And then for the 3, you're going to find just like a bunch of just like wrapped up spears that have just been carried as surplus weaponry.
Excellent. She would she would take the cask of oil, tuck it into a pack, and grab an armful of spears and race back toward where Rogar's assembling the rear guard.
Some men and young boys have answered your call, Rogar. You'd see that your rank of 40 able-bodied warriors has swelled to maybe 46 or 47 as 7 commoners have decided to join you.
The ones who aren't equipped for fighting, like with armor and weapons, I'll command to like break branches and take from the firewood that we'd harvested in the short rest. To like bear as flaming brands and like try and hearten them by yelling from atop the horse that the fire in their hands will dismay the enemy and stave off the dark night. It's a lie to them and myself, but it's probably convincing from beneath a spiked helm.
Certainly it is. These untrained boys and men, you assume maybe once farmers or blacksmiths or tanners or fletchers. They kind of take what heart they can from your words and gather some flaming brands, a couple of longer branches that you cut to act as staves, and they would kind of gather among the trained men and women. As the march begins and you fall in as the rear guard, you see that the group is they start off like you were aware, the hysteria giving them energy, giving them adrenaline as they move quickly to begin with, but eventually the cold hand of exhaustion grips them once more, and they fall slowly to a little bit faster than a walk as the exhaustion kicks in. You would travel this way for maybe a couple of hours, not spotting anything behind you, but hearing the occasional screech of a startled bird, or a stag would leap past you through the woods, running in the opposite direction, moving away from the horde as you are, fleeing for their lives. And you would know with a grim certainty, Rogar, that they are gaining on you as the sounds become more frequent and louder.
Would Lund have been able to pull together some archers and fall in behind Rogar and his contingent of volunteers.
Yeah, you would have found like 4 or 5 other trained archers, including the huntsman that you had before, who actually know how to effectively use a bow.
Up here now.
Okay.
Yeah, so go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was gathering those 5 or 6 together. I would fall in with Rogar, greeting him with a nod and a snow.
Umber,
To it then, I guess.
not for long. They're gaining on us. Perhaps they'll meet us before nightfall. Perhaps not.
Well, it's either do or die then.
Seems that way. Your uncle would have us stand against them and give those beyond time to crawl to Winterfell. Though if the enemy is gained upon us, it will be not long for them.
I'll do it then.
On the losing side twice in the same year, a hard thing.
Hard times, hard decisions. What else have we got?
You have your cousin,
Daisy.
and she is heir to last hearth, such as it is. Would you see her fall here, a rear guard to scavengers and thieves and crones? And Dorian? He stopped short of saying coward.
My choice would be none of my house. Should not see the safety of the walls of Winterfell. I'm not so sure that will be the case.
When the enemy break our van, you should take a horse and your cousin and flee to Winterfell. Dorian spoke to me. If we are overwhelmed, we are to flee with what we can. The time comes. You should do that rather than fight.
First,
Your house still lives.
First sensible thing I've heard all day, and I would laugh, almost defeatedly.
You would continue to travel through the day. This gallows humor continuing unabated throughout the day and into the night. And your assessment was correct, Rogar. As night falls, as the tumbling pitch of gray and white snow slowly shifts into a sullen darkness, you see them shambling, shuffling among the trees, approaching you, closing the distance. You know that this is nowhere near the actual host that you first saw. The host that the Wildling first saw. And you can't help but wonder where the rest have gone. But as the horde of 400 descend upon you, moving in their methodically slow, shambling movement, you pass along the base of the mountains to your east, through the forests. What do you do? How do you decide whether you fight or not?
Uncle, they are close. What do we do? The
You are
people
heir to
cannot
last
outrun
earth.
them.
It is your command.
They will overtake us, and everyone will die. And to become like that.
He sighs. Perhaps the pass. Perhaps the mountain pass. Perhaps we can make it there. Perhaps we can. And he doesn't know what to say. He doesn't know what to do. He seems incapable of making the hard decisions.
How far to the pass?
He would look over at the mountains. You see that as the waning light kind of descends across these spears of jagged stone, that maybe if you were to move quickly, hard, you might get there in the early hours of the morning. It's maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, hard, quick movement.
It's our only chance. If we rest, we all die.
They will not all make it. There are some who can barely stand.
Then leave them. And let's move.
Leave them and they become part of the army of the dead.
Not if they burn.
The point there, that one.
Maybe
Your uncle is stricken, you should relieve him and assume command. You're the heir. And your lord is a brother, still a child. Indecision will kill us as soon as the whites.
Uncle. I relieve you of your command. We move at pace. We do not have time to stop, to burn. We have no time. You can see them. We must go.
He looks both relieved, surprised, no small amount of shock crossing his face, but a grim acceptance as he falls in with the rank and file, just walking among them, as dead as the zombies, as the monsters that follow you.
To Rogar, keep the rear guard. Those who fall behind must be left.
If they are left and killed by the whites, they'll be risen as whites. I beg your leave to kill them.
You know you don't have a choice, cousin.
The name must choose. Those that can keep up may start up the pass. Those who cannot will stand aside. Do it quickly.
Yes, my lady. And he'll bow and go and do just that, belling for the same as before, to form up a rear guard and to like give out the harsh words.
I'll fill in the archers that I know won't have the scruples to ask any questions about such acts and prepare them.
And the march continues. Are you pushing them to move at a much faster pace, even though you'll lose more people, or what are you doing?
They'll just ride past those who fall behind and just like ask them quickly if they'd prefer a clean death or to like just be swallowed by the storm, and just do as they please, but like set a pace that's purposeful and needful.
So definitely a forced march then. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and not so fast as to lose everyone, but a tough pace to keep up with.
Yeah, for sure. You slowly start to pull away from the horde. But as this is your command, Karina, I am going to need you to roll me 3 d10s.
Okay. $16.
That is how many people fall out of your ranks in the first hour of this march. 16 are slowly lose the pace, falling back. The sick and afflicted, the old, children are lifted onto shoulders. Women who are just too tired and can't keep walking slowly fall behind the group. Maybe about half of these, maybe a little more than half, ask for the swift, clean death, while the others, you hear their screams behind you as the horde catches up with them, and they succumb to their fate.
The woman who I helped from yesterday morning at the other end of the pass, is she amongst those who falls behind?
Yes.
Did she ask for a clean death?
Yes, she did.
Could I bid her that I would take her child?
She would gratefully accept, weeping and falling to her knees, whispering thank you repeatedly, as she receives the swift death she's been promised.
Yeah, I'll take the kid up and like swaddle him in like the black and red cloak of Bolton, and put him on the saddle in front of me. And I guess asking too much of my horse at this point, I know I'll probably break the beast, but this is all probably in vain anyway. And he doesn't probably think much else of the stupidity of his actions. From that, just busies himself further up the column.
So you're oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, Dacey's assigned herself to the grim task of pouring a little lantern oil and touching a torch to each of those that we slay, just to make sure they don't rise as part of the army of the dead, as best she can.
Yeah, perfect. This punishing pace is punishing. It's brutal. You see people on the verge of collapse, several collapsing into the snow on their knees, and they hear the screams behind them of the people who've fallen behind, and they pull themselves up, determined, tired, weary, weeping to their feet, pushing onwards, making sure that they do not fall behind. They do not want to die. Over the next 30 minutes of the march, you will see the pass approaching, this small canyon, a rivulet really, between the mountains, leading up into them and over to the other side. You know that beyond those mountains is the Dreadfort and the Karstalks. But you're moving away from Winterfell at this point, but what choice do you have? Now, Karina, with this last hour to get to this ravine, I'm going to need you to roll me 2d10 now.
Yeah, and how familiar am I with this area?
I'm sure you've traveled through here before, visited these forests and these lands. You know that this pass leads up into the mountains, where a large group of tribal people live, though they've recently, with the coming of the winter, have abandoned their homes. So you should find no issues making it through the pass besides the undead that pursue you.
So is it like a ravine that has a bridge that, we would intend to cut or something once we cross?
Sorry, when I say ravine, I mean like kind of like a steep canyoned wall, like a steep canyon with like steep walls on the side.
Okay.
But like a literal like a pass. It'd be very difficult for them to follow you through.
Okay. Unfortunately, I rolled quite high, 13.
Okay, another 13 fall behind. And I use a mechanic called a luck die, which is a D8. So will you roll that for me?
I'm not feeling terribly lucky. I'm not a fan of 2.
That is not lucky. Low is bad. Your uncle starts to fall behind. Uncle Dorian is wheezing, his legs shaking, his staff crunching into the snow, while his knees tremble with both fear and exhaustion as he just struggles in his old age and in his weakened state to keep up with you all. All right, you've reached the pass.
I'll order a few men to go ahead of the group. The rest of us staying behind as a rear guard as best we can.
Are there elevated parts to this pass that the archers and myself could mount up on?
Yeah, you can easily make your way up the steep slope and get a clear shot down in front of the vanguard.
Since we've left people behind, we could take the sleds we'd made and dash them upon the trail and set them alight to like slow the enemy at choke points when we come to like narrower ravines or parts of the pass.
So you're gonna create obstacles by breaking up the sleds then and lighting them on fire?
Yep. Unless commanded not to.
You can see that Corinna is not accustomed to command. Yes, whatever ideas you have, just do them. If it will slow them down, do it.
He'll go and do so, probably feeling a little bit safer having like archers up on the ravine above, looking down over the column as it passes through the pass. And he'll give the order and help like commence to smashing up the sleds that are in excess and like try and block up a pass and like set it on fire. Like it's nearly futile. He knows like it's only going to stop them a tiny bit, but it means we won't have to carry them. It'll keep us warm and it'll keep our minds occupied.
Perfect. So you smash at the sleds, creating a small wall of flame against the nighttime, against the darkness. And for all intents and purposes, you can barely see what's beyond you. The only indication the horde is still following are the screams and the occasional crunch of snow. As you make your way up the pass, slowly backing away from the darkness and the illuminated area before the flame, you see the first wight step into view. It's a horrid, ghastly thing, all emaciated, skin and bones, eyes half lidded, frozen shut, one eye missing, its jaw hanging in a Cheshire macabre grin, its lips rotted away a long time ago. And it steps into the light, shuffling towards you, and then you see another foot and another leg and a hand and a body as they come out of the darkness and into the light one by one.
Daisy looks around and at those here to take a stand, just sees face of a northerner after the face of a northerner. And she looks back to the whites that have emerged and that are continuing to emerge and approach them. And knowing that the group is moving on towards Winterfell and they're here to delay them as best they can, she says as much for her own benefit as for everyone else. The old gods are calling us. Here we stand. Archers. And then looks to Rogar to see if he wants to give the order, the final order.
No, he would just be like stepping up into line, or like riding up into line, waiting for the archers above to fire down into the mass.
But how far are we talking these first few?
When they start stepping into the light of the burning sleds, they're probably 150 feet away.
Okay. My archers would wait slightly for them to get a little closer so that we can get a little more accuracy on the shots. As much as we want to let loose now, missed shots serve no purpose.
Okay. They draw closer. 130, 120, 110, 100 feet. Sorry, go ahead.
Rogar given order for some of the men to throw flaming brands beyond into towards the enemy to further light them up to aid the archers above. And when it just becomes a waiting time for them to hit us, he'll look around for where Daisy and the Lady Umber are.
Flaming brands soar out into the night, deadly fireflies alighting upon your enemies, soaking them in flames and lighting up their sparse rags and rotted features. They step past the 100-foot range, 90 feet, and now they're among the burning sleds. You see that the first group of walkers who walk through them, they light up almost immediately, collapsing in screaming, burning piles on the ground. Landing atop the flames, and eventually, as they die from the flames and the burning, smothering them. Only the occasional burning walker now is what reveals the horde, and it is huge.
It's at this point, I'll make the signal, and we'll loose the arrows.
Go ahead and roll me a d20 at advantage. You're just going to attack for the entire group of archers.
Okay, so that's a 25 total, 19 on the die.
Okay, so you're gonna manage to thin out 25 of them before they are upon your men, and that is when we are going to roll initiative. So go ahead, post your initiative in the chat. So we're going to have in this order, Daisy, followed by Lund, followed by your soldiers, followed by the Horde, followed by Karina, Rogar, and the Horde again. All right. This is both a combat and a skill challenge, so your skills will affect this the same way an attack will. So be creative. It is your turn, Daisy.
Okay, great. The armful of spears that Daisy found in their brief camp before they made this dash, she's armed some of the green boys in the rear guard who didn't have their own weapons with them, but she's kept one for herself. And she's gonna. She'll just throw it at one of the whites. Probably a waste of resources. That's burning in the back of her mind, but That's what occurs to her to do when she sees these things. So that's a 23 to hit.
Yeah, that'll hit for sure. You take this walker right in the chest with your thrown spear.
And that'll be 9 damage.
Yeah, dropping it immediately. Any attacks made are against the horde, so you'll kill basically anything you attack. But
Okay,
it stumbles backwards and just falls back into the horde, giving you guys a brief respite again, as it makes it difficult for the rest of the whites to follow. Anything else you wish to do?
No, she'll stay where she is for now. Yep.
Okay, Lund.
Okay, Lund has spent his formative years, his late teens and early 20s, both hunting and fighting in the Five Kings War, and later for the Boltons as they took Winterfell. So he's no stranger to mass combat, especially in the archery division. So he's pretty skilled at firing off arrow after arrow, basically breaking down into my archetype is hunter, a horde breaker. So I get to make 2 attacks as long as they're tightly packed in to ranks and whatnot. I imagine the horde is. So I want to fire off 2 arrows into the horde as they make their way towards us, if that's all right.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so the first attack was pretty good. I got a 19 total, 13 on the die, but I rolled a 1 on the second one.
Oh, you got a nat 1?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Roll me a d4.
Comes out with 2.
Okay, your sweat-slicked fingers, cold and damp and numb from the chill, release too early on this arrow, sending it spiraling down into the ranks of your own men. You hear a shout of pain as somebody takes his arrow.
Unfortunate. Bad day for him. I don't have time to worry about it. Are they closing in? Or are we kind of like fighting and retreating?
I don't know, Sir Rogar. What is the tactic?
Die slowly and costly, I think, at this point. But if I can speak and if I would be expected to give orders for what to do, then it would be to charge and fight them within the firelight where our arrow archers can shoot down into them. I think Daisy had put up a call before. I believe that she fights with the infantry, so maybe try and get men to form up in a line centered on her on the outskirts of the burning sleds light perimeter, so that Lund can fire down with the best efficiency into them.
Okay, with that knowledge, I'm not going to make any type of movement, so I'll be done.
Okay. At the shout of command, the soldiers move forward. You see the ones that are armored with shields and with swords and spears. They kind of form up a defensive line, locking themselves shoulder to shoulder, standing against this horde, against this horror. They are going to take the... What will they do? They'll charge. They'll charge forward with in this line and attack. Exacting a toll of you see they maybe managed to take down between their combined attacks, maybe like 15, 16, 17. This passes an arrow. It's difficult for them to get to you. The Horde's turn. The Horde is going to make an intimidation check on your men as it approaches. Your men are steadfast. They don't move as they close in. Karina. You have to last 2 more rounds after this one before you can start moving again. You think you'll have sufficient space to move at that point?
Corinna is trying to shout for people to hurry and to go faster. But her fear overwhelms her and her throat closes and she can't make a sound. And she's frozen in place. I was going to attempt to do a persuasion check, but I rolled a 3.
Yeah, the people, as aware of your fear as they are of their own, they see you trying to like pull yourself together, some semblance of leadership, and they begin to despair. They move as quickly as they can, though up this slippery, icy slope, it is not very quick. Rogar.
He sees the horde like spill over around like the burning wreckage and clash into Daisy's line, and sees like the cost that's already been extolled, and sees like the arrows raining down, killing whites with abandon. And like, I don't even notice when one of the Umber men goes down with an arrow of one of his allies in his back. I look back and see the Lady Umber like trying to command the chaos about her. And some people already like starting to like run about in the chaos. Their courage like fled from them, and he thinks about fleeing too. Thinks about riding off, but then like something slams past him and spins him around. The horse like wickering unsteady beneath him, and he'll spur it onwards over to the lady. Dismount for 5 feet as per my Chevalier feature. And I'm going to do a grapple check if necessary to get her up onto the horse with the child, like the nameless child of the nameless woman, and smack it with the flat of my blade to like spur it east across the pass and leave this behind. Go! I'll shout as I do it. Go!
I don't think there's any fight. Corinna is too taken aback, too overwhelmed by the moment to react to anything. Roker. What? Why?
Take the child. Save yourself. Go. Tell them what has happened. Lead your people. And then he'll like smack the horse a second time harder, near enough to like draw a welt. And he'll call up, putting one mailed hand to his mouth, the other like drawing his blade free from its scabbard. And he'll call up to Lund, cover your lady! And he'll use the rest of his movement, 25 feet, to rush towards Daisy's line.
Yeah, you'll make it there easily. You could take an action still too.
In that case, I'm just going to unleash everything my character has. Action surge as well, because he would. A 19 to hit on the first, and then a 11 to hit on the second.
Yeah, you lay about, easily taking down one. What makes the 11 not hit?
Like the white is just flailing about with its arms, and I cut them both off in like an arcing swathe, but it still just slams into me and begins like biting at me, armless. But the other I like cut in half and kick it in like the top half down into like the flaming wreckage. and like the fear slowly being replaced by just like hot, intense joy of the slaughter.
Okay, the horde is going to make attacks this time, one against each person in the wall, and then against the soldiers too. So one attack on you, Rogar. That is a 10, which I believe is definitely going to miss.
Yeah, it's just like scrapes broken fingernails down the inlay of my breastplates, and like the hand withers away, sloughing into the snow.
And then one attack against Daisy, which is going to be a 12, which I doubt hits too.
Nope.
And then one more attack against the soldiers, which is going to be a 19 on the die. It's a 22 then, which is definitely going to hit. You see...
Is the mob counted as one creature for like mechanical purposes?
Yeah, for mechanical purposes, I'm counting it as one creature. It just gets 2 attacks.
Okay, so
turns.
because I've hit it before, it'll have disadvantage on the soldiers. Any attacks that not against me for 1 round.
Oh, cool. Okay, well, I'll make the attack again then. And it misses.
Okay.
You rally the men.
So because Daisy was missed though too, right? No one actually got hurt that round.
Yeah, nobody actually got hit.
Okay, so in the case that someone does get hurt, I get to attack them for a bonus. But in this case, our line holds firm, I guess.
Yeah, you see the line begin to bow a little bit in the center against the combined weight of all of these White Walkers. You see a man almost go down. One of his comrades pulls him back to safety out from the biting, clawing fingers and teeth of a White Walker. The line holds barely. It's struggling though against the weight of these numbers. So that is the first round that you managed to survive. Round 2, we'll start at the top with Daisy.
Whew. The line bows and the line holds, and the line pushes back as Daisy uses, if she may, persuasion for the skill challenge to rally them to drive them back and hold the line firm again. And that's 15.
Your target number's a 15. What do you say?
You're not going to be dinner for these dead men. You're not going to become more meat in their army. Push back! As she thrusts her sword into the chest cavity of one and rips it to the side. And the soldiers push forward, braced with their shields.
A collective roar rises from your men, just, as they all push forward, screaming, shouting, spears clashing, fingernails scrabbling against metal. The battle is in fervor now, as bloodlust and fear and adrenaline overtake your men and yourselves. Lund.
Ordering another volley of strikes into the horde. London and his men send 2 more volleys over. 13 and 14 on the dice, so that's 19 and 20.
Yeah, those both hit. Perfect.
That's 7 on the first one, and 11 on the second. I guess I don't need to roll damage, do I?
Yeah, where are you targeting? How are you helping your line with these shots? Are you getting the ones that get too close? What?
I am having my guys, since the line pushed forward into the horde a little bit, it left more than a few kind of coming around each side. So we're focusing on the stragglers on the side, trying to get beside and behind the rushing line.
Yeah, so you keep them basically centered on your soldiers, forcing them into the middle of this pass so they can't surround you. Perfect. The soldiers, on their turn, they are going to make... they'll just make attacks again. 16, 15, 15. They get 3 hits. They manage to actually take a step forward as they push against this horde, this tide of undead bodies. Emboldened by the arrows they managed to take down the ones coming up the side, and Dacey's scream. The horde going to make attacks. One against each of you in the melee, and once again, one against the soldiers. So the attack against Dacey, does a 16 hit you?
Does not.
The one against the soldiers, a 16 will hit them. So the soldiers are going to take 9 points of damage. And then the attack against Rogar, that's going to be a 19 on the die, so 23. I mean 22.
That hits me. Yeah, I hit out at the whites for a 13 too, for damaging the soldiers, if it counts.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so you managed to, I think you overstepped yourself as you aid the soldiers, stepping into their aid. And one of these whites, arm broken, jagged forearm protruding like a wicked, undead, razor-edged knife, steps forward and just gets under your guard, stabbing you up underneath your armpit where the armor is weakest, and scrabbling at your face as it pulls you away from your men, trying to suck you into the horde like some monstrous, just hungry thing. Karina.
Karina is on a horse holding something, and she kind of looks down and realizes that it's a child. But she can't think about that right now. She sees the people ahead of her, and she feels the horse moving underneath her and the sweat on its flank. Is there like a nature or survival or something I could roll to see if there's an extra route for people to go, a side path to help things move quicker?
Yeah, make me nature, survival, perception, whatever you feel like makes the most sense.
17.
Yeah, as you're approaching the kind of the end of this pass, basically, that it's going to open up, and you'll have the option of basically continuing forward or going right. And right will like bring you close to the edge of the mountains that you can loop around and get to Winterfell. So it's going to open up shortly if you just get them to the top of the pass.
Yeah, she will say as much. Say, go ahead and then to the right, quickly.
Yeah, the people fired with a determination, a fearful determination, begin to, with their screams and shouts, rush up this pass, knowing that if they can just make it somehow turn down this path that you've told them of, they might have a chance of actually surviving this. You hear the screams behind you. You hear the sound of metal crunching against frozen bone and flesh. You hear the crunch of boots on stone. And the snow continues to fall in a blurry gray haze around you. And you just hear the horrors of battle behind you, Karina. Is there anything else you'd like to do?
Keep moving on the horse. I think a single move.
Okay. Yeah, you just ride alongside these people, making sure that they stay as organized as you can. You see your uncle struggling among them as well. Rogar.
Okay, with the horde marked from the bonus attack before, I'm going to step forward away from the line, like hoping that someone will fill the spot behind me and try and be at the front of it and have the focus of the most whites. And then I'm going to take the dodge action, like ready my shield up just under my helm and use my sword more to like prod away and ward off blows than to actually smite these wraiths, and essentially try and buy time for those who are fleeing. So attacks against me will have disadvantage. Attacks against my allies will have disadvantage, and if my allies are hit and damaged, I get to attack for a bonus. Now that it's been my turn again, that's it for me.
Okay, perfect. Well, it goes to the horde now. As you take the spear point, essentially, of this formation, you are definitely going to be attacked first, as this is where the heat is strongest. Oh, you are lucky you gave me disadvantage on that. That's a 5 and a 20.
Haha, dodge for the win. For anyone
dodge for the
watching.
win. They miss. Against all odds, you actually feel a hand scrabbling at your face mask, threatening to pull you into the horde itself and swallow you whole. But one of your men standing next to you, his sword comes down and chops the hand off. The attack against Daisy, disadvantage. That's definitely going to miss with an 11. And the attack against the soldiers. Oh, that actually might hit. The lowest is a 17, so yes, that hits.
Cool. I'll take my defending strike, but it's only a 9.
Okay, the whites extracted damage of 11 on your group of soldiers. You see them begin to falter as men are literally just pulled from the ranks, sucked into this horde, and then the horde falls upon them like a pack of wild dogs, ripping and tearing at them until they fall still. Daisy, your turn. This is the third and final round. If you survive this round, you will be safe to retreat and fight another day.
So in the chaos of battle, fighting in the bitter cold, Daisy's used to the small relief, you could call it, of the splashing of the warm blood of her enemies. And it occurs to her that that's not happening with this. It's just so bizarre fighting a cold, dead enemy like this. And she looks across and sees Ser Rogar with that unique helm. And she has a brief flashback to the Battle of the Bastards, the Battle for Winterfell, where across the battlefield she saw the same man wearing the same helm fighting on opposite sides. And she steels herself and looks down at this group of dead men swarming her fallen allies. And in a rage, she charges forward and bashes with her shield, bashes some of the flaming debris from the broken sledges that they'd set up to smash embers onto the group of them. So can I make an attack for that, or?
Yeah, that's perfect. Go ahead.
Nat 20.
Woo! Narrate
Right
this to
on.
me. Nice. Tell me. What happens? How is this so effective?
So there's a handful of them that have just fallen to their knees and are just ripping apart one of her allies, and she just sees red and smashes this onto them, and didn't really know what she was expecting, but a big chunk of flaming timber, just actually a sort of a beam, falls onto them and crushes a few of them, and just they catch fire, and their shrieks just join the din of battle as they burn and suddenly stop their writhing.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say you managed to open up a pocket of breathing space for you. On this next turn, the horde will not be able to attack you. On the horde's next turn.
And Daisy's going to burn her action surge as well. And yeah, she's in two minds as to whether to go back and brace like Ser Rogar is, or keep taking him out. She's going to push on with her momentum and rush over and take a swing at some more with her sword, and that'll be a 22 to hit.
That definitely hits.
So it'd be 5 damage, but she just takes out a couple more of them, and maybe in the chaos as well, does that thing where she turns and raises the point of her sword to the throat of what she thinks is an enemy turns out to be an ally, turns around and keeps just hacking away.
Yeah, Daisy steps in the middle of the throng, swinging her sword wildly, clearing out a pocket, giving your men some space to breathe, a brief moment to catch their breaths. Lund, it is your turn.
Okay, I apologize. I got lost connection there for a minute. Can I get a brief recap of what just happened?
You didn't miss a ton. Basically, the horde attack was pulling people out of the group. Missed pretty much everything except for one attack on the soldiers. And then Daisy managed to score a nat 20. They're not the horde isn't going to be able to attack her on this next turn because she's holding them at bay so effectively. And she managed to hit another time too. Now it's you.
Okay, excellent. Does it look like the horde is starting to overwhelm the line?
Definitely. You guys are reaching breaking point as the center of your line bends like a new green branch.
Okay. We are going to fire again a final time into the horde before we maneuver into a better position. So one attack is 15 on the dice, so that's 21 total, and the other is 6 on the dice, 12 total. That's not going to do anything.
Yeah, only one hits.
Yeah. So with that, we'll and after the volleys, we'll break position and get down towards the rest of the group, where we'll either fight with them to ensure Corinna's survival, or be with her and run as survivors as we can.
Okay, the soldiers. They are going to again just make their 3 attacks. They'll hit twice, extracting a small. Okay, dealing 12 damage to the horde. And then it's the horde's turn. So they can't attack Daisy. So they're gonna make 3 attacks. 2 on the soldiers, 1 on Rogar. Actually, they're not going to do that. They're going to do grapple checks instead of attacks. So Rogar, maybe a contested strength save.
Okay. 17.
Ooh, that is. Wait, what's your strength modifier? Probably better than the hordes, but
5. Oh, my strength modifier. Sorry, 4.
oh yeah, definitely better than the hordes. They only have 3. Okay, yeah. So you feel hands scrabbling on your armor, trying to get purchase, pulling at your pauldrons, pulling at your shield, at your sword, at your arm. And for the briefest of moment, you feel like you're going to get tugged into this horde, as you've seen so many men fall. But you manage to stay standing, yanking your arm back. The other 2 grapples. You see that your men, your group has reached the top of the pass now. You'll be able to flee at the end of this round, if you so desire. Obviously, your soldiers, you see like 2 more get plucked out of the group and pulled into the horde. Just scrabbling, hungry hands pulling them in. Karina.
So how far ahead of the back line am I at this point?
Now that you're at the top of the pass, you're probably like easily maybe 200, 300 feet.
Yeah, she'll turn back towards the line and see if she can rally, if there are people who are fleeing, if there's anyone else who's straggling, try and catch them up. And I don't know if you'd need a perception to see if there's anyone who's fallen behind.
Yeah, maybe a perception check.
12.
No one you can see.
Okay. So I will head back towards the line, towards the fighting, yelling at them to come on because the pass is clearing.
All right, Rogar.
Rogar reaches up under his armpit and pulls forth whatever weapon was driven in there by one of the whites earlier. And when he rips out the broken spearhead of some Aeolian weapon, he sees that it's his own blood drenched over a dragon glass spear tip. And it brings back a memory in the hall when the White Wolf attended his lord's declarant, and the men of the Vale had come to his rescue and defeat the Boltons. That he'd spoken of dragon glass and that it could dismay the whites, as fire did. And there were other things spoken there too, many, but one that he recalls to mind is that the whites in their hundreds were mastered by an other, and usually their bands would have this fell puppet master at their rear and use these dead things, dead people, to orchestrate his will. And knows that he'll find no enemy like that here, where the fodder is thrown thickest. So rather than holding the line from now, he's going to push forward, shake off his near broken shield, picking up a burning brand that burns his hand as he plucks it from the wreckage. And I'll push forward, taking the opportunity of attacks, trying to push through to the rear of this line, trying to actually ignore and almost like football dodging between these rushing whites, trying to get to beyond the edge of the firelight and seek out something he's never seen, with fire and frozen dragon fire in hand each.
Ooh, you're ducking into the horde. Okay. Oh man. Okay. You're gonna take 3 opportunity attacks.
Mm-hmm. I see he's 16 at the moment.
Okay. That is a 16 on the die, so 19. Another 16 on the die, so 19. And a 15 on the die, so 18. That's gonna be 3 hits. As scrabbling hands claw at you and makeshift weapons swing. 6 points of damage, 10 points of damage, 3 points of damage. So 19 total.
Okay.
But you clear the horde. You clear the horde, you make it to the back. And what does the other that you find back there look like?
All of a sudden, he punches through the wall of frozen black flesh, and he's surprised that the couple that can see him, rather than chasing after him, hungering to pillage his flesh like usual, they rush past in a vortex back into the melee. Behind him, he turns his face against the coldest wind to see why he's already been claimed or marked by this thing, even though he cannot see its mouth for its ill look. It unsettles him and disquiets more than any charge. There's no proof against the despair it sows in him. And then the pain of the flame in his hand awakens him to it, and some primal thing from the age of Red King stirs in him, and he charges at the ice and death.
And that is where we'll take a 5-minute break. Go to the bathroom, get a drink, be back here in 5 minutes, and we'll start back up again.
Oh my god. This is amazing.
Bad things are happening.
Whew.
Oh, ladies and gents, this is how are you guys feeling? You guys feeling the pressure?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
It's intense. Amazing.
I keep having this White Walker theme on repeat in the background, and man, that just ratchets up the pressure. It's such intense music.
Yeah, for sure. Music makes such a difference.
Keep waiting for the Reigns of Castamere to start playing as we all start dropping.
Well, it's probably going to
Everything
start
goes
with
in
Nico,
slow-mo.
man. Nico just dove into the center of the horde, dude.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It was nice playing with you, Nico.
Absolutely fearless. My goodness.
Nico's like, Tyler, I'll take your survive this third of 3 rounds, and and something else will happen.
Yeah,
I'll take that and
I'll take it and don't
and
shove
run
it.
into.
Exactly.
I would like to offer that this is pulling a Caius, because if you've ever played with Caius Wallen, you will know that his characters often have death wish.
Yeah. I played one game with him, and it's true. It's true.
Yeah, Caius death wish. It's amazing. And
I haven't
Nico's-
played with him.
Yeah,
The one game I played with him, he
I've
was
seen-
at the top of a tree and tried to convince an Alfer to come after him only. So there was that.
I recently saw or listened to the game that I think Nico ran, where you guys were like young Mongolian.
Oh yeah, the Hordelands game.
Yeah, in like the first 3 minutes, Caius is like, I'm going to try and jump over this cliff to get a plant.
Yeah, it's like I would like to do this on purpose, and if I fail, I fall and die. I'm like, Caius, what?
Caius is such a great player, though. I love what he brings to like the games that I play. The one game I played with him, and the other games I've seen him in.
Yeah,
But yeah,
for sure.
you guys are doing awesome tonight, though. I'm loving playing with you guys.
This is a great game to be playing in. You're
man. This
doing
is
a great job.
fantastic.
I've always been super intimidated to run something Game of Thrones, just because I feel like there are expectations on what the Game of Thrones game should be, and I don't want to like disappoint people. But I am enjoying this. I think I'm going to start doing this more.
Well, we're level 3. We have a level of exhaustion, and we're facing Horde of Nightwalkers. So, I mean, like, you're good. You're nailing it.
Oh, perfect. Yes.
Things could be going better.
Uh,
For the first time in Lund's life, he wishes he was in Dorne.
yeah, for the first time, where it's warm. And everyone's trying to poison and kill you. Yeah. I guess it's better than being turned into a monstrosity like them.
It's safer than here.
It's safer than here, indeed.
For now.
If only the Southern Kings would listen and stop their petty squabbles. Did I notice that the North always seems to be the ones that get the shaft, like for everything?
It's shite being Northerner.
No, I mean, like, you've got the Wall to watch. You've got, winter hits here and it hits hardest here. You've got Reavers with the Greyjoys and stuff. You've got, I mean, what else? Like, just everything. Everything terrible happens in the North.
It's true.
Is Nico here yet? Has he said anything yet? Oh, I don't think he is yet.
The North may be harsh, but I wouldn't trade it for all your southern beaches and all your
True.
Dornish horse piss wine.
The vintage Dornish red. All right, Nico's back. I saw him in the chat. So let's go ahead and take this moment to introduce your guys' characters, plug what you'd like to, either the channel or something else. We'll start with Jason and end with Nico.
Hey everybody, how you doing? My name's Jason Smith. This is the first time I've actually played with most of these guys and girl, and so far having a total blast. I run an extremely small YouTube channel, Smith's Forge Gaming. Got a few games up so far, adding them slowly through time. I've been playing Lund. I'm sorry, Lund Umber, a distant cousin of young Ned Umber and the Johns, Big John and Small John. He's not a great guy. I hadn't had a chance to really have that come across yet, but he fit right in with Ramsay Bolton. I'll just say that. But that's me. I'm enjoying the game. It's great to be here, and I'll pass it along.
Go ahead, Taylor.
Hey, I'm Taylor. I play a lot of D&D and run very little because I have no time. You will see me most often showing up on Lloyd's channels. He does Jarl DM. He runs a lot of games, and occasionally Rob's performance check. I'm playing Corinna Umber, who is an older sister of Ned, and sent him down south and stayed behind and is seriously regretting that. But this game is amazing.
Go ahead, Keel.
Hey, my name's Keel. Yeah, I haven't played with any of these folks either, except Jason quite a while ago. So loving this. It's been so fun so far. And I'm playing Daisy Snow, half sister to the young Lyanna Mormont, everyone's favorite little awesome little lady. And yeah, she was basically sent up with everyone else to try and help the folks flee down from Last Hearth to Winterfell, and yeah, she's traveling with Sir Rogar and Lund, fought on the opposite side of her house that she's pledged to, basically Mormont and Stark. So yeah, but at the moment they're fighting against the enemy, the common enemy. So loving it, having fun.
And last but not least, Mr. Nico.
Hi, I'm Nick. I'm playing Sir Rogar Snow, who's a leal knight of the Boltons until their house is extinguished by the White Wolf. Now he serves the Child Lord Umber, given an unlikely pardon by the king in the north. And he'll earn the oath that he gave as much as he can, most likely in the coming seconds. He's from the Lonely Hills, which is south of the Dreadfort. And so he's like limited experience in life to the north, except time in the north, but knows his courtesies well and remembers as most of the north does. In addition to Jarl DM and performance role that Taylor mentioned, Erasmus Expedition by Jeff Lilly and Encounter Balance by Jeff Doty are also rad channels, definitely worth checking out. And I'm looking forward to playing more with all you guys.
Perfect. As always, if you find yourselves watching this game, it's on my channel, On a Roll. That's ROLE, like roleplay. I feel the need to specify because there are multiple puns you can make with that. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get right back into this. As Sir Rogar has charged into the enemy's back line facing the commander itself, one of the others, you come face to face with a monstrosity unlike anything you've ever seen. You thought that the White Walkers were terrible, that they were ungodly, monstrous creatures. But then you see this thing, skin white, pale, like frozen water, like ice, chilling you to the bone. It slowly turns its head and looks at you, white hair flapping, moving in the cold wind that passes, as you said, through you. And it looks at you, its dark, its light blue eyes peering into your very depths of your soul, as it seems. And it opens its mouth as if to speak, you think, but instead you hear as a cold scream seems to emanate from this thing. It is your turn, Rogar. What do you do?
Rush forward, screaming, and try and smash into the other with the flaming brand and with the dragon glass spear shard.
Go ahead and make your attacks. We'll treat the spear shard as a dagger.
Okay, it doesn't matter. It misses anyway. 16 for the flaming brand, but a 9 for the shard.
The 16 barely misses, and the shard, you see the other is very wary of it as you carry it through in your hands, swinging at it. Its eyes never leaving it as it steps to the side, lifting a blade of what looks to be pure ice up to block it to the side. And that will move
If it blocks
on.
my blade to the side, then it shatters in my hand, and shards of the iron like splinter and shrapnel through, like busting out the other side of my hand through the glove in like a spray of pink mist over the snow.
Wait, does dragon glass shatter too? From impact from the Oh,
I imagine it's flimsy and frail.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so the spearhead shatters into like 5 or 6 like long splintered pieces. You can still probably try and attack with them, but you see that this blade is this thing is made of different stuff than the whites. It is not some feeble foe. The horde. It's going to have its last turn, and you guys will have to choose if you run or if you keep fighting. It is going to make 3 attacks. Daisy is free of her immunity now, so 2 attacks on Daisy. Oh my gosh! Okay, Nat 1. They're stumbling over themselves towards you. They can't get to you, so they're going to lose their 3rd attack, and the 2nd attack is a 17. Does that hit you?
Does not.
Okay, you're just able to nimbly dodge out of the way, moving as this group basically falls across itself like dominoes. And that'll be it for the horde. Top of the order, Daisy, what are you guys doing now that you're on round 3? Or on the final round? The final round's over. You see Rogar charge into the horde.
Yeah, she charges right behind him. So she, dispatches a couple more whites and pushes on and chases after behind Sir Rogar, and sees his attacks get deflected and the dragon glass splintered as she's chasing up to join the fray. And she was in the hall, same as Sir Rogar, when Jon Snow, King in the North, told the Northern Lords about the dragon glass and its ability to kill the others. So she's going to try and pounce down and pick up a shard of it, and try and pick that up and then plunge it into the White Walker's flesh. So do you need me to make a check to pick it up or anything like that, or just to make an attack?
It'll just be like a little bit of movement, not very much at all. You could easily pick it up.
Cool.
And then your attacks will just be attacks.
Yeah. So that's a 14 to hit.
Misses.
Ooh.
Yeah, you attack this thing, swinging at it, trying to find some purchase. I imagine the dragon glass in your hand, the shattered piece, cutting deep rivulets into your palm as you just hold it without any sort of a guard or handle. But the other easily steps out of the way, staring at you the entire time. Okay. That means it's going to be Lund.
Okay. London and his men have descended from the higher positions, and I found Corinne on the battlefield. The flames are dying down. I'm taking it.
Yeah, I mean the flames they're still there, but like you said, they're dying down a bit now. that they're not finding any new flesh to purchase.
Okay. Are there any horses around that I can commandeer?
I mean, you would see a single tired mare kind of lying on its side in the pass. Whoever was riding it gave up on trying to get it to move.
And I'll curse at all 7 gods and run as quick as I can to Corinne, quickly grabbing her by the shoulder. Because we've got to go. We've got to go now.
What of the others?
You know what we must do. It's no easy task, but we have to make it.
Then we ride.
Looking back, Lund orders his men to fire into the horde, buying whatever time we can, more for ourselves than really for any of the men fighting on the line. Both attacks hit. 19 and 17 on the die.
Yeah, you fell 2 more walkers, easy.
Excellent. And with that, is Corinne on horseback?
Yeah.
She's on the destrier, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on Rogar's horse.
Okay. With no other ride available, I guess I'll jump on the back of this horse and we'll ride.
Okay. I'm going to have the horse make a con save. Wow. Okay. Against all odds, the horse stays standing. Giving a whinny of protest before stumbling up the slope. Are you calling out the other soldiers to retreat, to fall back?
Yes.
Okay. You shout out to fall back. The soldiers are going to look back at you, and they're going to disengage, all shoving with their shields at once, and then turning and running 30 feet up the slope or I guess 35 feet up the slope, just trying to keep up with you guys. Your archers losing arrows as they run. You pile up a substantial amount of bodies that the other whites are going to lose some movement trying to catch up with you guys. Okay, the other.
He'll have a disadvantage if he goes to attack Daisy, because I marked him with the flaming brand, and I stand next to her, barely on my feet, but enough.
Yeah, this monster, you don't even call it a he, more of an it, looks at the two of you, gaze switching between you. One and the other is going to make one attack on each of you. So, first attack on Daisy, a disadvantage. Okay. Daisy, does an 18 hit you?
It does not. Still got the shield.
Okay. The sword comes swinging, cutting towards you, almost seeming to cut the cold, whistling through the air. You're barely able to dodge. I imagine that Rogar has something to say about that, maybe drawing his attention last moment, so it misses. But then he turns to you, and in a spinning swing, you see like an amused smile on this creature's face as it finds your resistance futile. And there's going to be an also 18 to hit. Does that hit you?
Yeah, that hits me.
Okay. And then it's going to do... you're going to take 7 points of slashing and 3 points of cold. As this ice brand just seems to shear through your armor as if it were warm bread, just ignoring everything, just cutting straight through to your body and your bone. Warm blood trickling through the rent in your shining armor. And the other just lets loose another one of these moaning screams. A small group of whites stopping the pursuit, maybe about half of them, and circling you all, forming a circle around you. This other seems rather prideful and sure of itself. Karina.
I will spur the horse forward as best it can, and ride with Lund towards the pass.
The child sitting before you kind of whimpers against the cold and against the screams moving up the slope behind it, against these shouts of fearful men, kind of like burying her head kind of like against your shoulder and like underneath maybe your cloak or something, trying to like hide its vision from the horrors it's seeing. Okay, Rogar.
I'm going to try and do as before, smack at it with the flaming brand, flickering as it is, and then with my offhand, like the shard of broken dragon glass for my bonus.
Go ahead, good sir.
Okay, a crit on the flaming brand, but a definite
nice.
miss on the dragon glass. 9 again.
So let's go ahead and treat the flaming brand like an improvised weapon, so D4, but go ahead and give it a D6 of fire damage also.
Okay, so 4, 10, 14 plus my strength. 18, bludgeoning and fire.
Whew, ouch. Okay. So 18. What does this look like as your flaming brand has a very distinct effect on this thing?
Like unthinking, just drive it in like it's a blade rather than like hit thumping like it's a brand from like muscle memory and like the battlefield. And so it like actually drives into the other. Its flesh like drinks up the brand, and then as it like recoils, burning in dismay for a moment, I watch in horror as the torch just like flickers a glib blue. And extinguishes all warmth, though not without harming the thing some, if that's possible.
Yeah, the fire sputters out on the end of this brand of this flaming torch that you're carrying. Though you did distinct damage to this creature, you still see its white hair kind of coiling up in blackened smoke and burning.
That's probably when I try and swipe at it with the dragon glass dagger in my bloody hand, but it like moves about frightful quick, like almost liquidous in the flickering light as I like near overbalance trying to swipe a cheap shot at it. Yeah, fail.
Yeah, for sure. It's just calculatingly skilled with this sword and in combat, sidestepping and swinging easily. The horde is going to pursue. Daisy, it's your turn.
Single purpose in mind, destroy this other and the horde will fall. So launching in as well, taking advantage of Sir Rogar, keeping it busy as well. She'll step in with her shield and thrust with the dragon glass dagger, trying to find purchase this time. Screaming in fury and fear. Oh god. 6.
Yeah, just calm. Just this other seems to just always take a single perfect movement to dodge all of your attacks. Its discerning eyes easily picking out your movements and your swings, preparing its body to move in a perfect flow and harmony. And a strangely beautiful, though terrifying dance of skill. Okay, Lund.
On horseback, still making our way up the pass. I'll take a look back. Does it look like they have a fighting chance at all, or are we riding away from a certain death?
You can see just in the flickering light of what flames remain, Daisy and Rogar staring at something impossible, something terrifying, something that you've heard about only in stories that your mother told you, that your grandmother told you. An impossible thing, a creature of frozen terror, of undead complexion and monstrous appearance. And other, you've never seen one before until now. And you know that even if they manage to kill this thing, if by some curse or twisted fortune they do, the horde will fall upon them.
Yeah, as I stare into this monstrosity that they're fighting, the terror sets in. I don't think Lund has ever felt this afraid in his entire life. And he's doing everything he can to just not let that surface and hold his composure. But we will continue riding up through the pass.
Okay, perfect. The soldiers continue to follow. They're going to take the dash action, sprinting after you, leaving the horde behind. The horde will follow them, Karina.
With Lund still behind her on the horse, she's watching the people up ahead to see. I mean, did the uncle fall behind? He was not doing well the last time she'd looked. She's looking for him, looking for anyone else that they might be overtaking.
As you reach the group, as you catch up with them as they're turning right on this pass, what you see everybody, all these people, these faces that are familiar to you, but your uncle is not among them.
She registers that somewhere in her mind. But there are more pressing matters. They have to survive.
And so you continue on, spurring these people to keep moving, not letting the deaths of your soldiers go in vain. And we slide back down to the battle commencing below. I'm going to simplify the initiative now that you guys are effectively out of combat. So it's going to be Daisy, the other, Rogar. Okay, the other is going to, after sidestepping your blows, it's going to see that you're both carrying these dragon glass daggers, and just this wicked, cold smile passes across its lips as it lunges forward to strike again. Once at both, well, it's going to strike once at Daisy, and then reach a cold hand out to touch Rogar. So Daisy, here's your attack coming at you. Okay, that might actually. Oh no, I believe you said you had a shield, so 18 doesn't hit you, does it?
Correct. 19 AC.
Oh, okay. This disadvantage is coming in so clutch, I swear.
This shield has saved my ass so much.
Yeah, okay. You're able to sidestep the blow while it reaches forward, Rogar. You've overstepped as you swung this brand at it, and the darkness as it envelops you. You lose vision, your eyes fuzzing, and you fail to see as it reaches forward. It's going to have to attack still, obviously, but we'll see if it hits. My goodness. Okay, it nat ones. Take an attack of opportunity against it.
Kill it.
Nat 1. Perhaps like hot blood pumping out of my black ring mail just like sows like my fate behind me in this gory trail. Too much life out of me, like not enough strength, and it's like a feeble swipe. Like it would have not scratched it even if I had hit it, if it hadn't sidestepped blinkingly fast. Just toying with me.
Yeah, it just seems to give you this moment of hope before taking it away again, and it is now your turn, Rogar.
He'll look to like the brave she-bear representative of Bear Isle and say grimly, "Here we stand." And he'll try and smite the thing again once with the flaming. Oh, the torch is out, so he'll grab it. I don't know how good of an idea that is. Futile to like scrabble at the thing once with his fist and once with the shard. For a 19 with my fist to like punch it, and like a 6 to hit with my shard of dragon glass.
Dude, man, the shard of glass is not doing anything for you guys. Okay, go ahead and give me I guess it's just 1 plus your strength for damage.
So 5 bludgeoning. I don't even know if that can actually hurt it. My fist, and when I pull it away, it's like I've punched a piece of like eldritch ice in my hand, like blackened and burnt, with like an arcane frostbite.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm gonna roll a d4 for frost damage for touching this thing directly. You take 2 points for hitting this thing with your fist. You watch it over. Yeah.
In that case, maybe like I go to punch it, it just reaches up a clawed white ancient hand and like captures my fist, swallowing it, and freezes the mail, and it explodes half my arm with it. I drop to my knees, the helm of like the flayed man dropping down into the snow, hot blood pumping out my elbow and the stump, and I just drop in a steaming mess, slain by that 2 damage.
Did the 2 damage drop you?
Yup, I was on 29 out of 31.
No way! Holy cow. Okay. Yeah, it just reaches out and catches your hand. Like you said, the frost that spreads over the metal so quickly, just exploding outwards in an arc, like this eldritch blast of ice. You look down in horror. All that's left is your elbow. Hot blood steaming and pumping into the ground, painting it a deep red. As this white canvas of snow is transformed in grisly horror. You're slumped there on your knees, head bowed, consciousness fading. Daisy, your turn.
Steeled by the words of her house, as uttered by Sir Rogar just before he's fallen here. She's staring wide-eyed at him just dropped to his knees, his exposed bone of his arm reminding her of the flayed man on the banners of the now extinct House Bolton, whom he served for so long. And this is her one last chance. She thrusts the dragonglass dagger once again towards the other, trying to find purchase on its flesh, knowing that if she fails again, it's likely her doom as well, and potentially those of the people they've been trying to get to Winterfell. Here we go. 18 on the die, so 22 to hit.
The other has AC 18, so you hit.
Whew. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's that where the din of battle just goes silent for just a very brief moment as she looks between Rogar and the walker and just thrusts it, and it just catches it in the neck, and I believe it shrieks and shatters into snow powder. Is that?
Oh, my sweet summer child, you wish. Go ahead. So hits on this thing are going to do instant crits. So roll me a d12 plus a d20. And I'm going to hurry and pull up the Isloff document. And you said, yeah, so d12 and a d20. I guess you actually just said the head, so just roll me a d20.
Okay. 12 on the die.
And you said you were stabbing this thing, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, piercing brutality. Okay, 12 on the die. You bury this shard of dragon glass into this thing's neck, sinking deep into its throat. It stands there in shocked surprise, and on its next turn, it is going to be stunned. Your damage, you're going to do 2d4 doubled. 2d4 plus your strength doubled.
Okay. 12 damage.
Okay. Yeah, so you bury this dagger deep into its throat. No blood comes out, but it is so shocked that you managed to land this blow. You see the area around this kind of cracking like ice would, and bits and pieces of its skin actually start to flake away around the glass. It is your turn. Oh, Rogar, death save, actually. DC 15, because this is Westeros.
Fail.
Okay. What are you seeing as your blood leaks away from you in your final moments?
Just like my knees and like the leather kilt and like greaves there, like as I'm slumped in this pile down in the snow with one arm, dragon glass through my good hand, and just like white, red blood widening in a circle about the white around me, and like the sound of Dacey's exertion and like the ice and rattle of the others' mockery is like fading now. And just like blurring out as my senses flee with the blood.
Okay, Dacey, it's your turn again because the other was stunned on its turn.
She stares wide-eyed at the fact that this damn thing didn't die with one blow, but she thinks to herself, what did I expect? The king in the north said that dragonglass can kill them. It didn't say it kills them instantly. So she's going to try and basically give it a body check, a big shove with the shield, and try and grapple it, and then subsequently like grab the shard from its neck and re-stab it a few more times. That's the intent.
Okay, give me a contested strength then to try and grapple this thing.
15.
Oh boy. 15 total?
Yes.
Yes, my sweet child, you lose. That is a 22.
Whoa.
It just throws you off. The strength beneath this frail body is immense. You still have your attack, but you cannot grapple it. And for touching it, you're going to take 2 frost damage, cold damage, as the heat seems to just leach from you from just touching this thing. You watch in horror as frostbite just creeps up your fingers from where you touch this thing's skin.
So do you still have my attack, did you say?
Yeah, you can still have your attack.
Okay. She's not armed with anything, so she's basically gonna she was gonna try and in the chaos reach out and grab the shard and try and swing it around and get it again, jab it again. So that's a 21.
That'll hit. Is that with the dragon glass again?
Yes.
Okay, hits. Go ahead and roll me a d12 and a d20.
So the total of those two, yeah? 19.
No. What'd you get on the 12 and then what'd you get on the 20?
Okay, I got a 2 on the 12 and a 17 on the 20.
2 and hold on one second. Let me get the chart. So 2 and 17, you said?
Correct.
So 2 is the torso, and a 17. Ooh, okay. Your dagger just shoves up and underneath this thing's ribs. You hear a popping wheeze as you just break one of this thing's lungs. It apparently needs to breathe still. It kind of lets out this wheezing gasp and is going to take 2 levels of exhaustion.
Ooh.
So go ahead and give me those 2d4 doubled plus your strength.
Yes, that's 8 total.
Yeah, so this thing, the other just kind of like stumbles forward, letting loose this sick cough, and looks up at you, wheezing, and will attack you twice at disadvantage if it has 2 levels of exhaustion. The first attack is going to be a 15, which misses. Oh, you are lucky it has disadvantage. because it nat 20 on one of them. I think it's finally going to hit you, though, because I got a 22 total.
Yes, that'll hit.
Okay. It lets loose this angry screech. Lunging forward with... Ooh, that's going to hurt. Lunging forward with its sword, this sword of this ice brand, tearing through your armor like paper, dealing... that's 18 points of damage to you, 7 of which are cold.
That hurts.
Yeah, it cuts a jagged tear through your armor. You feel the armor almost is rent in two just from the sheer force of this blow. Devastating. Your blood dripping out of it, almost congealing immediately into a thick slush. Rogar, death save.
3 fail.
That is 2 fails, my friend. Daisy, your turn. This staggering blow has just been inflicted upon you.
Yeah, she staggers. She looks down and sees the blood congealing almost instantly as it comes out from the bitter cold and from whatever effects this supernatural monster has. And she's still got fight in her. She grits her teeth and looks this thing in its piercing blue, otherworldly eyes and pushes forward again, knocks aside its weapon, one of its attacks with her shield, and drives once more with the dragonglass dagger, hoping, even if this final thrust drops them both, hoping to find purchase once more, hoping that the folks fleeing to Winterfell can get away. 19 to hit.
That will hit. Go ahead and give me D12 plus D20.
All right. 2 on the 12 and 10 on the 20.
Okay, so that's again the torso. And then... And you said 10 on the 20? Okay. Okay, you jab this. I'm sorry, this isn't as good as you might want. It's going to have disadvantage on its attacks next turn, which it already has. As you basically cut its belly open, exposing its innards, this dragon glass far too easily cutting through this thing as its blade cuts through you. And give me that damage, 2d4 plus your strength doubled.
16 total.
Okay. It's just turning into like just a battle of attrition now as you both try and wear each other down. It's going to make 2 more attacks against you. Oh, that's definitely going to miss. Ooh, this might be your end. That's a 20 total to hit.
That'll hit.
And for damage, oh, it didn't roll very well on damage, though. That's going to be 9 slashing with 5 cold. So 14 total.
Yep, that'll drop her.
Yeah, you rip this thing's gut open, and it just, in turn, steps forward, grabs you by the shoulder, and shoves its sword up into your gut, out your back. And it looks you in the eyes as your eyes go dim, and it stares at you and pulls its sword free and just drops you to it in a heap on the ground. Death save, Rogar.
7. I just like slump down next to Daisy, shed blood mingling, and 2 lives like leaving.
Daisy, you're lying on the ground, eyes half lidded, blood pooling out of this gut wound. As you look up at this other staring down at you, it places its sword at your throat and just pushes, finishing you off.
And
Both of you. Sorry, go ahead.
Just before the blade gets pushed in, she manages to get out final words. Here we stand. Her house words and the words from Rogar that spurred her to nearly take this creature before she dies
The creature looks down at its wounds and shambles away into the forest, not pursuing the group anymore, instead choosing to recuperate. You two, your eyes open, now a glassy blue, as you stand to your feet and follow the horde up the mountain pass. All right. We're going to go back up to the fleeing survivors. Kiana Lund. Not Kiana. Oh my goodness, what is your character's name? Karina. Okay, Karina and Lund, you guys ride alongside the refugees, the stragglers. Out of your original 47 men and women fighters, you have, out of your original fighters, you only have maybe 20 left, and the archers. Your number has been culled rather rapidly. You see many of the soldiers hobbling behind you are wounded too. This battle extracted a heavy toll. As you flee down the mountain, following this pass as quickly as you can, you emerge out the other side, managing to stay ahead of them. To the arms against the southern. Yeah. You manage to keep ahead of the horde, arriving at the base of the mountain, and turning to try and loop back around, basically, needing to cross the river, which you see is frozen. What are you thinking? What are you doing, saying? How are you commanding?
Lund has dismounted and is pushing along any and all of the soldiers that he could possibly get to move with any kind of quickness. Moving over the pass and on the downgrade now. You said we saw the horde across the river?
They haven't exited the pass yet. You're approaching the river right now.
Okay, so we're approaching the river and it's frozen. I would be yelling and cursing in all the religions of the first man, the seven, and any other that would listen to get these people moving. Winterfell can't be that far away. This is what I tell myself.
Karina is feeling the heavy loss of the people that she's known her whole life, of these soldiers. And she knows her younger brother is safe, and that if she arrives in Winterfell alone, the cost has been too high. And she'll slow her pace and tell the soldiers to slow it so that they don't leave behind any more stragglers. They can't leave anyone else behind. The guilt is too much for her.
You hear a shout from the ranks of commoners. A shout of hope, which is surprising. And as you turn to look, you see another caravan approaching you, bearing the flag of Stark.
Instant relief just drops my shoulders as this is our way. This is how we live. This is how we survive.
As they approach, that hope would diminish as you see that they are just as beleaguered and tired as you are. You see that their company is even smaller than yours. Yours has been cut down from the original about 250 to like 100 or so. Theirs is a little bit less, maybe 75 or 80. And as they approach you, you see standing at the front of them, you guys are both Umbers, so you've met with them before. Their names are Marcus. This is Marcus and Thea, both Starks. They are leading this small caravan towards you, approaching at a slow pace. You see they look excited too, hopeful, until you both meet up and realize that neither of you has very much of anything. It appears that half of the horde went to Carhold.
Does Carhold still stand?
Marcus, his head would fall, and he'd look down at his boots. No, it has fallen.
Fuck.
And the last hearth as well. Winterfell is our only hope.
They would kind of look at each other, Thea and Marcus, and they'd look back at you. How many are you? Are there more still in the pass? What forced you over to this side?
There's a horde behind us.
Behind us as well. Marcus would just shake his head.
Now, I've spent a lot of time in the wilderness of the north. What distance, like how long of a good paced march are we until Winterfell?
If you were to walk at a hasty march, like pushing it like you did to get through the pass, like 2 days or 3 days to get to Winterfell.
It's too far.
The Dreadfort is only 1 day away, but it's empty.
An empty hold doesn't do us any good. I'm muttering to myself, it's too far. It's too far.
People start to visibly despair as you say this, by the way.
Keep your voice down.
Damn it, do you think that any of these people can keep up the pace for even a day, much less 3?
Cut wood. We will die here. We will make our pyres. We will burn our people. And we will not join that horde. Do it.
Lund is taken aback by this, but looks down and nods. And again, with the surviving huntsman, I'll go to start collecting any kind of wood that we might be able to gather.
If there are any who seem still strong after this march, any who wish to take their chances, I would tell them to go.
The group of Karstarks would kind of like look at you like they haven't seen battle because they've just been running the whole time, but they look at you like you're insane. Like, it's only 3 days. We can't give up now.
They are close behind us. It is too much.
The Karstarks look back at their people, who look at you, this gathered group with your bowed heads, muttering, despair evident on every face. Marcus and Thea would look at each other. Well, we go, then. Best of luck to you. In the light of the Father, bless you.
There is no light.
And they would just kind of look at each other, frowning, and start moving on as you gather wood to build your final resting place. The people are confused as to why you're not going with the Karstarks, and they look at you for advice, for answers.
It is 3 days to Winterfell. How many of you, of us, can go for 3 more without rest, without sleep, without warmth? When the Horde catches us, and they will, we will become like them. But we can weaken them a little. We can set our pyres across the path. We can burn so that others might live.
The child riding in front of you would look up at you, confusion plain in her eyes. The hints of a frown peeking across her face, snaking downwards, her lip beginning to quiver as tears, she could cry, if she had any hydration to cry, would have threatened to peek out of her eyes at this moment. The rest of the people look up at you, looking at each other. Several of them would turn and run after the Karstarks. The soldiers, faithful ever to the end, to the heiress of Lady Umber of the Umbers, would gather wood, prepare weapons, handing out what spears and other weapons they have to the people to provide maybe one last extracting toll on this horde before they burn, that is.
And Lund would, as we have the pyres built, Lund looks towards the pass and would hear them coming. And he would look to his men and look back to the pass and draw his swords. So, this is it, lads. We fight, and we surely die. But if I had the choice, the fire is the better way to go. And would find a lit torch and start to light the pyres along the paths here as the horde would approach.
The snow is billowing thick now, surprisingly even thicker than it was before, falling in sheets, it seems, coating the ground in an out-of-place pureness, a strange whiteness. Yeah, okay. And as you see them coming out of the pass, standing at the front of them, you see the armor moving back and forth, clanking in the wind, smashing against itself, wet blood turned congealed, frosty thickness, staining his armor, Rogar, and directly behind him, Daisy, as they step from the pass, moving towards you. This last fight, this last stand is going to be purely narrative. So explain, just tell me how your characters fight and die.
Loosing every arrow that we had left from the hold on the pass, we managed to take down a precious few. The horde would make its way down and surely crash into the 20 or so that are left of us. Many fall right there at that initial combat. The rest of us fight as long as we can. The fire's blazing in our backs. Even Corinna, I would imagine, has a sword in hand, doing what she can, how she can. And I would see Lund, for once in his miserable life, see the front lines of the dead pushing ever closer and closer, but being held back by the heat of the flame. I also imagine seeing the leader, the White Walker, making his way down through his troops, as well as the now undead forms of both Daisy and Rogar. And with that, I would look to Corinna and embrace her in a familial hug, and whisper into her ear, "Shall we then?"
Corinna nods, and although she is tired and weak, the nearness of the end gives her strength, and she will touch the edge of her cloak to the fire, feel it beginning to burn, and attack, and take with her what she can, feeling the flame on the back and the ice on the front. Death twice. But perhaps it will be enough.
As the flames lick up your back and reach your hair, to you, Rogar and Daisy, in your undead form, stepping forward, attacking these blazing, burning people. They look like servants of the Lord of Light. A strange thing to register on your undead minds. How do you meet your end at the hands of these desperate, struggling people?
Rogar probably rushes forward at the urgings of the thing that bid him rise, and rushes at the Umbers, that crashes into them with brutal force, but catches a flame, as is the weakness of his new kind, and just gasps in icy death rattles as flames consume him on the field. And he thinks nothing of it. It's just there's nothingness. It's just what's left of him, given biddings by magic unknowable.
Daisy?
Mindless murder. She just races through with what's left of the horde, hacking mindlessly at all she comes across, taking arrow after arrow and not falling. And again, also catches a flaming arrow finally, which sets her ablaze as she continues to fight through. She was covered in scars before she was slain by the other. She scared a lot of people in her life just from her appearance there, and it does not register, but she causes more terror now than she ever did whilst breathing. And as the flames start to overtake her, she doesn't register, but she gets closer to Lund and Karina and slumps in a heap before them as the flames just overtake basically everyone who's nearby.
Lund.
On fire, fighting through every ounce of the pain that tells him to lay down and die. I catch sight of Daisy, or the undead husk of the person I knew to be Daisy, and I leap forward, fighting and slashing my way. But just before the form of Daisy slumps down on fire from an arrow of an unknown source, I too slip and fall to my knees, and the mindless horde, paying no attention to their own well-being at all, just hack and beat Lund into submission, where I collapse and let the darkness overtake me.
And Karina, hair and body burning. What about you?
Karina refuses to let these creatures be the end of her. And as she feels herself fading, she puts her own sword to her throat and pushes, sending the blade up through her jaw.
You burn upon the pyre, turning to ash, skin crackling. And we switch to a smaller focus. A child, forgotten, standing on the banks of a frozen river watching the horror unfold. A little girl who lost her mother that day and was picked up by a flayed man. And finally an heiress to a house. She watches, crying the whole time, screaming, watching as the horde looks up from its grisly work and begins to move on her, the last survivor. Her legs are frozen. She can't run. She just stares as they walk towards her. Frozen tears forming in her eyes as she closes them. So afraid, yet accepting of what is to come. And that is where we'll end the session. Guys, good job.
Bravo, man.
Oh my god.
Good game, guys. Good game.
Well played. Good game.
Good game.
Let's go ahead and do outros. Sorry, go ahead, Taylor. What were you going to say?
Oh no, that was intense.
Yeah, for sure. Holy cow. Nico, we'll end with Jason. So just reverse order.
Thanks for the game, Tyler. It was great to play with all you guys. Like Jason said, it's the first time most of us have all played together. It was rad. We jived well. I can't wait till next time. Thanks heaps.
Okay, Keel.
Yeah, same. It was intense. It was amazing. I'm going to be buzzing all day. Yeah, thanks Tyler for running it, and thanks everyone for being great group to play with. It was great. And yeah, look forward to playing with each of you more.
Yeah, for sure. Taylor.
Yeah, what a session. I think you should definitely do more Game of Thrones. You nailed it. It was brutal. It was a good game.
Awesome. Thanks for playing. Finally, last but not least, Jason.
All right, man, I've got serious goosebumps all up and down my arms right now. Thank you for a most excellent game, both to you, Tyler, and everyone here. That was just really intense. So good. I'm Jason. Again, I run Smith's Forge Gaming. Come check me out if you're so inclined. Also, to any that aren't already in Absolute Tabletop, go to Absolute Tabletop on Facebook, official group. Just loads and loads and loads of not only great games, but really cool advice and different takes and different aspects of our shared hobby here. So I can't recommend that enough. Thank you again for a really great game, guys. It was really great.
Well, everybody, thank you for playing. I just cannot even describe how hyped I am about how great that game was. You guys did awesome, great role play all around. Amazing, guys. I loved running this. I was so grateful that I got to run it for all of you guys. And if you liked the game, feel free to like and subscribe. I'm definitely going to be running more Game of Thrones. That was just the best. I loved that. And as always, if you want to see more, you can go to my channel On a Roll. I recommend checking out all of these guys' channels. They all run amazing stuff. They're great players. They're part of a great community. If you want to get it in some games, come to absolutetabletop.com and absolutetabletop.com on Facebook, the Facebook group, and get in some games. That's what made this all possible. So thanks for tuning in. And as always, I hope you find yourselves in your games on a roll.